it's Bouncy here. Honk honk! Today I'm here to talk about Milky the Twin Pines Magic Clown. A clown you may have seen before, but may not really know much about. Clarence R. Cummings Jr. was born in 1912 and passed away in 1994. He was born in Chicago, and when he was 12, he received a magic set for Christmas that would change the trajectory of his life. In 1929, he started doing small local events, and he eventually began to work on Chuck Stanley's Happy Hour Club, which was a radio show. But his most iconic performance was Milky the Clown. Milky's movie party is sponsored by Twin Pines Dairy, and that's where the persona of Milky eventually evolved from. His look is actually based on the Pierrot, and he is a legend of WJBK-TV in Detroit. So much so, in fact, that December 16, 1960 was declared Milky the Clown Day. It's also estimated that he performed at as many as 130 schools a year. Milky was everywhere, and everybody really loved him. But unfortunately, because of his black and white clown look and old footage, people associate him with being creepy, which simply just isn't true. He went from serving in the Army and entertaining troops as part of the Army Special Services Division in Florida, to actually working alongside people like Bozo and other clowns that were on Detroit TV as well. He is so much more than a creepy clown meme.
Here's Milky the Clown. Hi, Nancy. I'm Milky. How are you? Pretty good? What's this by your nose? Huh? Oh, did you see that? Isn't that a big ball? I have another ball, but it isn't quite as big as this one. And you know what I can do with that? I can make something happen once. Watching? No, it's over here. No, it isn't. It's a rabbit. There he is, a little bunny.
In fact, Milky was so popular that when he retired, his friend actually continued on the Milky persona for him, as did a few others. Thank you for learning about Milky and giving me a chance to explain this iconic clown. Honk honk, it's me Bouncy here to talk about a mystery in the art world surrounding a female clown. We don't know her name or much about her, but we wish we did because all we have are a few images from some famous paintings and 2 photographs. The Clowness Cha U Cow. Cha U Cow is a title that is actually wordplay, a phonetic spelling of an acrobatic dance, and the French word from it meaning noise and chaos. She was notoriously a loud and outspoken performer and clowness. She was a gymnast, contortionist, and erotic dancer. Although we have these images of her being a gymnast in her early life, we actually associate her in a different image. We think of her wearing black and yellow, with her hair up high on her head tied by a funny yellow bow. But why do we think of her this way? Well, that's because the famous painter Lautrec was very inspired by Chao. You see, he found inspiration in her because she dared to venture into the male-dominated space of clowning. Not only this, but she also did it while being openly lesbian, something that inspired Lautrec greatly, making her his muse for a while. He admired the way she held herself and was true to herself and openly loved her partner, who is speculated to have been this woman from the 1890 painting Gabrielle the Dancer. Art historians have noted that the way that Lautrec portrays her, there's a certain sadness to her, making you wish you could have really known the real her. But there is a happiness to it, because if we didn't have these paintings, we wouldn't know about her or that she existed. And that's bittersweet, because she came from a time period where a lot of these performers were sex workers and were women, and they have all been lost to time. So it's nice that we can keep her alive somehow and respect this history. When it comes to famous clowns, it would be an insult not to mention the famous and beloved Cepillín. Mexican culture is beautiful and carries with it a respect and love for clowning. Payaso and payasita, or as we know them, clowns, are more active in Mexico than they are in the United States. You see them everywhere, like on yummy candies. Cepillín even did back-to-school ads and all different kinds of advertisements. He was a singer, a TV host, and an actor, whose name more or less is said to mean little toothbrush, which was actually due to him appearing on a local TV interview. He was a dentist who appeared in clown makeup to help inspire children to brush their teeth and not scare them. And well, the rest is history. In 1977, he had a TV show and it appeared in 18 different countries. It was an educational comedy known as El Show de Cepillín and had notable famous guests like Lou Ferrigno, who played the Hulk. He's also known to have helped the career of many famous people like Salma Hayek. When it comes to talent, he was not lacking. He had 27 different children's albums and 11 went gold. He had so many wonderful and popular songs. In 1987, he had another TV show, Una Sonrisa con Cepillín. He also traveled with the circus under his own name from 1982 to 2006. And in 1990, he had the show Super Sabados con Cepillín, and it aired with his two sons, Ricardo, Seppi, and Roberto, Frankie. Although he passed away at 75 of cancer, he left behind him a clown legacy that is being passed on by his own children. One of the wonderful parts of clowning is how many clown families pass on their craft and keep it in their family. And I hope you've learned a little bit more about this iconic legend today. Honk honk, it's your clown teacher Bouncy here, and today I'm here to talk to you about Peggy Williams. She was the first female clown to graduate Ringling Clown College in 1970, and she was inducted into the Clown Hall of Fame by her peers in 1998. Peggy was passionate about helping deaf and disabled children and studied speech pathology, but when she saw an ad in Parade magazine for a casting call for clown school, she took a chance and became a part of one of the first group of women to ever enter clown college in Venice, Florida.
About that big of an article that Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey Clown College was now accepting female candidates.
She is reported saying, "It dawned on me that clowns use their bodies to tell stories, and I thought, who better to learn from," she says, "so I ran away from the university to Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey Clown College with a few clothes, a guitar, and a Singer sewing machine." Her makeup is an iconic 2 tears with a sparkle on her forehead. She also does not wear a clown nose but paints one on. She apprenticed under Lou Jacobs, who would mentor her on her performances and timing backstage. Lou Jacobs is a very famous clown who was inducted into the International Clown Hall of Fame as well and popularized the clown car.
If I had 10 minutes, 5 to 10 minutes every show to talk to Lou or listen to Lou or ask him questions. And so I showed him, this is my clown shoes from way back in the 70s. These were made by Griffin Clown Shoe Company, and that's long gone. But I was showing him, I said, "Lou, I don't know what to do because I have a hole in the bottom of my clown shoes." And he says, "Don't confuse that with the hole in your soul. If you wear clown shoes that long that you get a hole in it, it's going to stay with you a long time. You're going to be in the circus for a long time. That's a good thing."
Peggy averaged 500 shows a year, each 3 hours long with 13 costume changes. She learned how to juggle, unicycle, perfect flops and falls, and pantomime. She also appeared on The Carol Burnett Show and game shows like What's My Line and To Tell the Truth. Throughout her career, she kept a passion for being able to reach out to children with special needs. She's worked with Bell Volunteers, which provides auditory descriptions of circus acts for the blind, and learned all circus terminology and sign language to be able to communicate with the deaf during circus tours. Peggy lived in a circus train for 27 years, first as a clown, a boss clown, and later as a production manager. She now works at Ringling doing archival work. Williams has reported that she faced a lot of prejudice in clowning for being a female clown. Younger clowns and older clowns refused to sit with her in the clown cars and didn't want to participate in slapstick with her. However, through traveling so much in the circus, she helped them change their minds and keeps in touch with many of them today. Peggy is an iconic clown who was not only Ringling's first female graduate, but she also did a lot of work for special needs, and she doesn't even have a Wikipedia page. Honk honk, it's me Bouncy here with Clown Spotlight to talk to you about a famous female jester. And because most jesters were male, that's a pretty big deal. So who was she? Well, her name was Jane or Jane the Fool, and there's not much we know about her. Besides the fact that she was bald like many male jesters at the time, we don't know her age or when she died or when she was born, but we do know she existed because of documents between 1535 and 1558. We also know because of these documents that she worked under the queens Anne Boleyn, Mary I, and Catherine Parr. She is also cosplayed at a lot of Renaissance conventions. Also, because all we know about her is from documents, it's crazy about how history is sometimes. People get reduced to paperwork. The people seen as non-important to society, the non-rich, non-famous, non-royals, are so hard to track down. However, due to Jane's popularity amongst all the queens she was employed, we do have a few ideas about who Jane was. Jane is suspected to have had some sort of intellectual disability. Jesters were separated into two categories, the merry jesters who were performers and the natural innocent jesters. The latter were people with learning disabilities or physical disabilities or both and are sometimes called innocent fools. Some people believe at the time that those who suffered from intellectual disabilities were closer to God and more pure, so they were valued by some nobility and oftentimes employed by them as precious possessions of the court, even though they used them for entertainment and oftentimes to laugh at them or mock them. One of the reasons we think that Jane might have had a disability is because in several sources it's been found that Jane often appeared and performed with another woman named Lucretia the Tumbler, and that they were given identical clothing. But it is said that Lucretia was a merry jester, and that she looked over or took care of Jane, and that they were close companions. She is said to have been Jane's keeper. It is widely believed that Jane appears in this painting of Henry VIII and his family. To the right is the king's jester, and then to the left they believe it's the queen's jester Jane. Jane was highly favored amongst all the queens she worked for, and Mary even gave her a very large wardrobe and apparently an insane amount of very expensive shoes. A lot of what we know about Jane comes from the receipts of the rich, and in December 1535, a green satin cap and 25 yards of purple and red fringe for a trimming dress for her were purchased for Her Grace Woman's Fool, which refers to Jane. The book The Queen's Fool is also said to be lightly or loosely based on Jane. Although a lot of Jane is lost to time, I thought we could use this as a learning opportunity to talk about her and shine some clown spotlight on Jane the Fool. I think it's crazy how much is lost to time. Who knows how many other female jesters there were, or about their lives and who they were as people. It's crazy to think about we're missing out on history. Bye! Honk honk, it's Bouncy here, and today we're going to talk about Skeeter the Clown. Zachary Reese was born in 1950 and nicknamed Skeeter by his grandparents. His parents lived in the Bronx and his grandparents lived in St. Petersburg, and he spent a lot of time going back and forth between New York and Florida. He recalls both places being very, very different, and that the racism and segregation he faced in Florida was a lot harsher than the melting pot environment of the city. Being in both places made him like a chameleon, he says. He went to Theodore Roosevelt High School in the Bronx and played basketball. He also learned to unicycle. Jerry King, a Bronx local, encouraged kids to unicycle instead of fall victim to criminal activity. This would lead to the formation of the King Charles Troupe of performing unicyclists, which would become a part of Reese's story. Reese joined the army and served at Vietnam, serving 22 months. He describes his time there as making him a black revolutionist. When he came home at age 21, he had been changed forever and struggled a lot with the negativity he endured. He says he was filled with hate and anger, and his family urged him to spend time in Florida with his grandparents. They thought a change of scenery could help. While in Florida, he ran into his cousin, who was a member of the King Charles unicycle troupe mentioned earlier. At the time, his cousin was traveling with Ringling Brothers and encouraged Zachary to join them. When he first joined the circus, he was greeted by people of all different races, and he was surprised with how friendly everyone was because they were all friendly to me, he said, and we were in Florida, one of the most racist states in America. As Reese decided to develop a clown persona, he went and attended Ringling Clown College. And once his clown persona was fully developed, he's quoted as saying, "Words can mean everything and they can mean nothing, but your facial expression and the way you stand, walk, and look without your sound is who you are. I want the audience to feel me." Reese's clown persona Skeeter is actually completely silent, and you can see that he can do it all with his actions and tricks and expressions. Reese describes his clown persona as a separate part of himself. He says, "It takes a while until you become your clown. I love my clown and I know what it is. I say my clown because we're two different people. I'm two different people and I've been like that for a long time, and it's my clown who puts all those people together." Reese performed with Ringling in venues like Madison Square Garden and the Blue Cross Arena, and he was also with Circus Vargas as a Goodwill ambassador. In '94, he was the opening act with Albert Alter, and he was also a hospital clown with him. In 2000, he was a part of a Universal Circus, which was an all-black and Hispanic circus. Skeeter the Clown is one of the many talented African-American clowns who overcame a lot in his life, and he put his talent into the art form of clowning. We should celebrate him. The Reese family helps an organization called the Uncle Junior Project, which is an amazing digital exhibit that helps people see the achievements of the African-American circus community, and they are told by those who lived it. There's also a portion where families and people can submit their own stories to keep this archive running. There are so many stories available about African American circus performers that you probably didn't know about. There are even portions on how disabled slaves were sold to the circus as freak shows and lived and traveled with the circus, with the portion on the entrapment to entertainment. There is a lot of rich history here in this website. Please visit it and consider donating, or just give it a little bit of your time and read through these stories. Without this website, I wouldn't have found out about Skeeter, and I hope that today we were able to shine a light on him. Honk honk, it's Bouncy here, wishing you a happy holidays. While searching for clown content for the Christmas season, I came across a movie called Santa's Christmas Circus, where I learned about a clown I didn't know about before.
For a delightful Christmas holiday treat, Santa's Christmas Circus in glorious, exciting, living color, starring Santa Claus and Wizzo the Clown.
After watching this 1966 movie, I had one big question. Who is Wizzo the Clown? Frank Wizard was born in 1916 and began performing in a trio founded by his parents in the 1920s called the Wizard Trio. In the 1930s, his family created the Wizard Novelty Circus that was a traveling circus that often appeared at stores and county fairs. Although the circus disbanded at the height of the Great Depression in 1936, his unique circus background would help out Frank later in his life. After high school, Frank went on to Hollywood to follow his dreams of being in movies and ended up in radio. In 1947, he gained notoriety for his radio interviews on KFEQ in Missouri. This success helped Frank get a TV career in 1953, and when the station wanted him to produce children's programs, he came up with the idea of Wizzo the Clown. His show aired in 1954 but had long-lasting appeal as he produced Santa's Christmas Circus in 1966. He was a beloved clown and local celebrity who brought joy to those who remembered him. Wizzo was a kind and larger-than-life clown who was literally everywhere in his town.
It means something to everyone. When I grew up with him in the Kansas City area, and it means a lot to everyone.
If he's ever made an impression on you, then you have that memory within your heart, and you'll always live.
I hope you have a happy holidays. Thanks for learning about Wizzo. Honk honk, it's Bouncy here to shed a spotlight on a world-famous clown that some outside of Mexico may not know, Pipo. Pipo the Clown is a famous clown played by Jose Marroquin Leal, who hosted a children's TV show called Pipo and was lovingly referred to as El Rey de los Payasos, King of the Clowns. He hosted his show Pipo from 1964 until 1998, the same year of his death. Before Pipo, Jose actually played Bozo the Clown. The TV studio XHX TV bought the rights to make a Mexican version of Bozo. Jose was invited to play Bozo and did so from 1961 until 1963, when the Bozo license expired. While he was playing Bozo, he actually starred in a segment called Aventuritas that actually later evolved into Aventuritas de Pipo. Once the clown license for Bozo was lost, Jose and the TV network executives worked together to develop Pipo. Pipo's costume had orange hair, oversized shoes, a round nose, and became an instant hit. Jose also went on to create the beloved character Professor Pilocho, played by Carlos Torres. The Adventuritas de Pipo segment that evolved from Jose's time playing Bozo was very popular. On every show, Pipo and Professor Pilocho would have an adventure somewhere, always stepping against Los Malitos, the meanies. When Pipo passed away in 1998, his death was televised and many openly mourned him. A street in Monterrey and Guadalupe have both been named after Pipo. There is also 2 memorials where Pipo sits next to Professor Pilocho. Pipo is an iconic and loving children's clown who brought smiles and laughter to everyone and is a pride of Mexico. Mexico has many affluent and loved clowns who bring their own flair and cultural values to clowning, and Pipo is among the greatest. Truly deserving of his title, El Rey de los Payasos, Pipo was a king of clowns, and I'm sure he is having quite a few laughs with Cepillín at their king's table in the sky. Bye! Honk, it's Bouncy here. Let's learn about Grok. Grok is usually affectionately called the king of the clowns, and he really was because at a certain point he was the most highly paid entertainer in all of Europe. Not pretty bad for a clown. In his early life, Grok learned about music and acrobatics from his father, and then he decided to travel with Roma people, where he learned even more about music and honed his craft. Grok is an exceptionally talented musician, and this is actually what his clowning is focused around. He really refined this craft when he decided to perform with Antoinette. Antoinette was a very famous white-faced clown, and they had a musical act. But Grok began to outshine Antoinette, and he actually eventually went solo. People started to really love him because his act was so clumsy and full of all kinds of funny musical blunders and pantomime. He mixed a little bit of every type of clowning in his act. He was a musician, he was also a comedian, but he was completely silent. And on top of that, he had an Auguste type of makeup. So it was like he had all these different inspirations coming from everywhere to create this unique character. He also used oversized clothing, and he liked to emphasize optical illusions. So he would have this really big suitcase and then pull out this really tiny violin. He was a really short guy and really huge clothes with really big shoes. In his later years, he actually established his own circus in 1951, and he's written several books and even been on Italian TV. Grok was a very hard worker, and he did finally retire to a villa he had, now named Villa Grok, which was a 50-room house he had built in the 20s in Imperia, Italy. And I think he really deserved it. Like, he lived large and lavishly in the end of times of his life, but he worked and worked and worked. I also just really love his signature and his autobiography. It's probably one of my favorite signatures ever. Yee-honk, folks! It's me, Bouncy here, and this week we're going to be talking about rodeo clowns again. This week we're shining the clown spotlight on Dixie Reger Mosley, the very first female rodeo clown. And yeah, she did bullfight. Now an Amarillo native, Dixie was born in Buffalo, Oklahoma, and traveled around the United States performing in rodeos with her family. Her parents were rodeo entertainers. They traveled often and lived in a tent and then a trailer. Dixie's first rodeo performance was in Pennsylvania in 1936. She started her career trick roping and trick riding, and showed promise in it as early as age 5. Despite rodeoing in numerous shows and getting bucked off her fair share, and jumping over cars on a horse, Dixie never broke a bone while performing. In fact, the only time she says she's ever had to go to the hospital for a broken bone was in 2017 when she slipped and fell on some ice. In 1982, she was inducted into the Cowgirl Hall of Fame in Fort Worth. And she's also attended clown reunions in Fort Worth, where she's been the only female rodeo clown. She's also probably one of the founding members of the Girls Rodeo Association, which is now the Women's Professional Rodeo Association. So there you have it, folks. A little bit of information about the very first female rodeo clown. Honk, it's Bouncy here, and today we're shining a clown spotlight on Oleg Popov, a clown mime and circus artist nicknamed the Sunshine Clown or Sunny Clown after he brought literal sunshine to rainy England. He was an active clown from 1951 all the way up until his death. He actually died while on tour at 86 years old, living from July 31st, 1930 to November 2nd, 2016. Popov had a difficult childhood, and he was starving during Russian war years. When he was just 12 and working at a newspaper, someone suggested to him that he should try out the circus, and he did. He was accepted to Moscow Circus School, where he studied acrobatics, juggling, and other clown skills that he excelled at, graduating in 1949. After graduation, he started his career at the Moscow Circus and got his biggest break when another clown became ill, so he filled in for him. His star power was undeniable, and he traveled with the Moscow Circus to France, Belgium, and England and immediately became a circus star. The Soviet regime noticed his popularity and made him a goodwill ambassador for the Soviet Union. While touring the United States in 1963 and 1972, he was given the title of the People's Artist by the USSR. His clown character takes inspiration from the Russian fairy tale of Ivanushka the Fool. He said, "I decided I would be Ivan the Fool, who in the end is no fool at all. At the same time, I would be a man of today with a good dose of cunning, mischief, and joy, and the image will be understandable to the working man." Popov built all his own props and trained all of the animals he worked with. He was a very hard worker and perfectionist, and he appeared in many different movies and TV all throughout his life. In 1967, he published a book of memoirs called Russian Clown, which was widely translated, including into English. You can also find sculptures of him, big and small, like this tribute to him in Tyumen, Russia. But also, he's very easy to identify. Just look for the checkered hat. Thanks so much for taking some time to learn about Popov, a famous clown full of sunshine. Have a sunny day!